That's my granddaughter. She did the first show with us today on Malcolm X and the
Oh,
Black
cool.
Liberation Movement. She's in the seventh grade. Okay. To Cuba with Obama.
Yes, sir.
Miss Shayla Paz.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
You're funny.
Huh?
You're funny.
Well, I hope the audience thinks so. That's good to us.
Yeah, Kenny, I said to Kenny like 3 times, okay, I gotta go do the interview with Dr. Haney. And then before I left, he said, where are you off to? I said, to the interview with Dr. Haney. And I said, oh yeah, that's right. I said, so
It runs
forgetful.
quite fast as soon as we get started. So this is a 4 for 5 today. So, thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is Obama in Cuba. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about Obama's trip to Cuba, Ms. Shayla Paz. Ms. Paz has not been with us before. This is her first time being with us, and she will give us some information in reference to her background, her education, and some of the experiences that she had that eventually led her to us this morning. Now, Ms. Paz, let's talk about your background, your experiences, and some of the things that were important in terms of your life that eventually led you to us this morning.
Oh, hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to finally get to be on your show. Yeah, I grew up in Cuba. I left Cuba when I was 28 years old. And my background is musical education. I taught kindergarten for about 3 years. And then I realized that teaching wasn't what I really wanted to do. The music was my passion. So I worked as a musician for about 7 or 8 years until I met my husband, and then came to the U.S. So that's the root of who I am as a how you say, a profession.
Well, now, how did you become involved with President Obama's Cuba trip? I mean, what do you know about that? Why don't you tell us as much as you know about that trip? That particular
Well, that's a long story because I started working as a journalist about 9 years ago. And I immediately signed up to be in the White House press list, so I would receive constant updates of the White House, of whatever was happening, so I can have other stories to tell besides stories about entertainment. And I got the opportunity to cover his visit twice in Nashville when he came to Nashville, and I get invitations all the time for all the different events that the White House hosts. I just didn't feel like I should go because, you know, we had to travel to DC or wherever he is. But this time, I received an email with the invitation to go to Cuba, and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do, so I emailed a friend of mine, and she said, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. So she helped me put it all together, and her husband used to be a journalist for CNN, and he's semi-retired, and I asked him, can you go with me? So he went, and the trip was amazing, unforgettable, emotional, extraordinary. I need more words to to explain how I felt, because as Cuban, to be able to go to my country with President Obama, it was like out of the world, you know, out of the ordinary. And for my family, I don't even know how they felt, because my mom was just looking at me and not saying anything.
Now, was this your first time back to Cuba since when?
Since 2 years ago. I
So
went 2 years ago, yeah.
How many times have you been back to Cuba since you first left?
Oh my God.
So it's a regular kind of thing with you.
Maybe 4 or 5 times. Yeah, because you know my family is still there. My mom, my brothers, my sister, my whole family.
Now, in terms of this invitation that you received, now how did that work out? I mean, what was the? Give us some information in reference to that.
Well, the thing is that all the media that are on the White House list are invited to come, but you're responsible financially for the trip. They do everything, but at the end of the day, you have to pay for the expenses of the trip. That's how it works.
Now, how did Cuba look to you this time around?
It looked as the same, you know. They just fixed the roads where they knew that President Obama was going to travel through, or they painted the buildings, and the baseball game where it was hosted, the stadium was painted like within a week, and those things are just facade, you know. It's not what the real thing is going on in Cuba. It's more than that.
And so in a real sense, this gave you an opportunity to see your family.
Yes.
And what we want to do during this second segment is to show some images. And I want you to narrate some of the images that you will see and tell us about that, because this is really a wonderful trip for you, was it not?
Yes.
To go back and to find that not only are you with the president, but your family is still there.
Yes, it was amazing.
Very good. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll have the images, and we'll have about 8 minutes for those images. And I want you to narrate for us what we're seeing on the screen.